Let's bring in Texas State Representative and Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, James Talarico. It's very good to have you on the show. Obviously, there are so many questions about these two latest ICE shootings and the overall deadly and dangerous deportation tactics on the part of this administration. At the same time, I'm curious, do you believe there should be a robust immigration policy and border security?
Absolutely. You know, we're on our Frontera tour going from El Paso, Texas to the Rio Grande Valley, 750 miles along our Texas-Mexico border. We're talking about common sense border security. We had Republican and Democratic border sheriffs joining together to support our bipartisan common sense border security plan. And I've also been talking about these ICE killings. In El Paso, I talked about Lorenzo Salgado, who raised 3 boys who all went to college. You saw 2 of them there, a public school teacher and an engineer. He embodied the American dream, and he was murdered after living in our state for 35 years. 2 days after I talked about Lorenzo Salgado, we saw another killing in Maine, and a 3-year-old girl watched her father killed before her eyes. And so we need a independent investigation of these killings. We have to protect our immigrant neighbors while also securing our southern border with common sense policies like more Border Patrol agents, more surveillance technology, and more immigration judges, not this crazy border wall through the Big Bend National Park here in Texas. So that's what we're talking about. And I think it's resonating with people across the state and across the political spectrum.
So you would agree that Democrats made a big mistake in 2021, 22, 23, not focusing enough on border security, right?
Absolutely. And I've called out President Biden and his administration for failing to secure our southern border. I remember talking to my colleagues in the state house who represent border communities, and they were telling me about the utter chaos along our southern border. And that's unacceptable. We need to be about making government work for people. And this was a prime example of government not working for any of us.
Do you think Democrats, other than you, do you think there are enough Democrats that understand what a horrible mistake that was? When you look at the 2024 election results and you see all of those counties along the border, all going red, or almost all of them going red, do you think Democrats nationwide understand what you understand, that open borders is no solution? In fact, it is a disaster, not only politically, but disaster for the communities, Hispanic communities along that border.
That's exactly right. You know, my family is from South Texas. My mom grew up in Laredo on our southern border. So border communities in Texas mean a lot to me personally. They mean a lot to my family. And national Democrats took the border for granted. We stopped showing up there, and that's why people along the southern border, it's why people in South Texas started looking for alternatives. Republicans came to town and made big promises about, common sense immigration approach, lowering people's costs. But just a year into this administration, those promises haven't been kept. And we've seen more extremism on immigration with these ICE raids. We've seen this crazy, useless border wall through Big Bend being proposed, when you already have a wall made by God with cliffs and mountain ranges, much better than anything humans could build. And then you've also seen costs skyrocketing for people along the border. You've seen these tariffs start to hurt small businesses in the region. So folks are feeling really disillusioned. They feel like they've been let down by both political parties. And it's why we're showing up. It's why we're listening and holding town halls to rebuild some of that trust that's been lost. And I think we've seen folks along the border, folks in South Texas, joining this movement we're building. They're ready to finally have a senator who's going to fight for them in Washington.
You know, you look at the numbers, not only in Texas and Florida and other states, and any gains Republicans made that Donald Trump made with Hispanic voters have been completely wiped away because of the immigration policy. In fact, Donald Trump's strongest policy has always been immigration. He's now even upside down on that issue. I'm curious, and I just put all of that out there because I'm not asking you this as a softball question. I'm asking you this as somebody on the ground, knocking on doors every day, talking to people every day, and sort of want you to be a reporter to Americans that are listening to you right now and explain the fear, explain the heartache, explain the pain that is going through the Hispanic community, not only in Houston, but across all of Texas and all of America.
Yeah, I've been traveling to every corner of Texas, from El Paso to Beaumont, from Amarillo to Brownsville. We've been holding all these events, and I've got so many young people showing up at our town halls, at our rallies. Many of them say it's the first political event they've ever attended. Many of them are Hispanic, and so many tell me that they're worried their parents aren't going to come home at the end of the day. And these are hardworking neighbors who have been in our communities for years, for decades. And the president promised to go after the criminals, and that's something I support. We should be deporting murderers and rapists and gang members, but that's not what's happening. ICE should be cracking down on the cartels, not our communities. ICE should be deporting these violent criminals, not small business owners. They should be hunting down human traffickers, not moms and babies. And I think that's what most Texans want out of immigration and customs enforcement. They want to go after the threats to public safety, not to the hardworking members of our community who have been contributing to our economy, contributing to our state, who've been making us richer and stronger as immigrants have done throughout American history.
Representative Talarico, thanks for being with us this morning. Let's talk specifically about your race. Democrats are excited about your candidacy here, but they also have that skepticism born of more than 30 years now of Democrats losing statewide. In the state of Texas, people have been saying for years now, Texas is on the brink of turning blue, and it always seems to come up just short. A couple of years ago, Colin Allred, a good candidate, lost by just over 8 points to Senator Ted Cruz, though he did outperform Kamala Harris in the state of Texas. So the question to you this morning for Democrats who may be watching, who are excited about you, why do you feel this time is different in Texas? Why are you going to reverse the trend of the last 30 years of Texas always statewide going Republican? Is part of that, as John Cornyn would tell you, that you are facing a uniquely corrupt candidate in Ken Paxton?
The first words out of my mouth when I launched this campaign back in September of last year were that the real fight in this country is not left versus right, it's top versus bottom. So, my party talks about turning Texas blue. The Republican Party talks about keeping Texas red. I honestly think the best color for Texas is purple. I think she would look great in purple, because what needs to happen is we have to end this one-party rule. We need competition in our elections in Texas, because when we have competitive elections, all politicians, particularly those who have been bought by billionaire mega donors, they have to stay on their toes. They have to try to serve all of us. And whether it's in red states or blue states, one-party rule always leads to extremism and corruption, because there's no competition. Competition is good in business, it's good in sports, and it's good in politics. And that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to take on the mega donors who can increasingly control our politics, control our economy, and their puppet politicians who do their bidding in the halls of power. And that's not really a partisan thing. Whether you're a little more conservative or a little more progressive, we're all getting screwed. None of us can afford the basics: groceries, gas, utilities, childcare, prescription drugs, the things that we need to survive. And so that's why we're bringing working people together across these partisan divides, racial divides, cultural divides, so that we can take on the people at the top who have been screwing us over for decades.
Watching this race pretty closely, it's been notable that the criticism of you from many Republicans, from the president all the way down to the grassroots level there in Texas, about you has been personal. It has been cultural. It's been kind of, he's not one of us. He doesn't have that Texas swagger. They talk about the fact that you're a vegan, which you have said you are not. Things like that, like he's not Texas, which you were born and raised, correct me, in Round Rock, Texas. You went to UT. Ken Paxton's from North Dakota and came to college in Texas. Nothing wrong with that, but just stating the facts. How do you answer that kind of criticism from those corners that say, I don't know, he doesn't walk and talk like a Texan. He might not be one of us?
Yeah, I think it's funny because I'm the 8th generation Texan in the race. As you mentioned, Ken Paxton was born in North Dakota. He was raised in California. And I think California transplants like Ken Paxton can become Texans. That's what's great about our state. You know, Texas is a state of mind, as John Steinbeck wrote. And so I think what folks are hungry for is a senator who's going to serve all Texans, regardless of our political party, regardless of where we grew up, whether we've been here for 8 generations or whether we just got here, like Ken Paxton. And I think that's what we've got to focus on over the course of this campaign. People want a senator who's going to bring both parties together to lower our costs. And that's what I have a track record of doing. I've served for 4 terms in the Texas legislature. I have passed 60 bipartisan bills with my Republican colleagues in the State House, bills that cut property taxes, that raise teacher pay, that lower the cost of housing and child care and prescription drugs, including insulin. And so I have a track record of bringing down costs for working Texans. I think that's what folks are looking for, not these divisive culture wars that have been pitting neighbor against neighbor for years now.
It's interesting. Ken Paxton says you're not Texan enough. He was born in North Dakota. He grew up in California.
It's not Texas.
Celebrates 4th of July in London.
Or Iceland.
Or Iceland, wherever he was.
I don't know where he went.
I'm curious, what French city did you spend? Were you in he's in London or Iceland or wherever? Were you in Paris? How did you spend, maybe Luxembourg? Where did you spend your 4th of July?
So I actually spent 4th of July with an American treasure, Willie Nelson, in Austin at his annual 4th of July picnic, which was a real honor as a longtime fan of Willie Nelson.
Wow.
And, you know, we celebrated 250 years of independence from the British, and Ken Paxton celebrated that important anniversary with the British. So it was quite a choice.
So Ken Paxton's in Knightsbridge, and you're with Willie on the 4th of July. Okay, check. Right. I think you in that. You know,
on the road.
I've always said that Donald Trump has succeeded by getting his opponents to act outside of themselves and do really stupid things. I have noted your campaign is doing the same thing to Republicans. You drive them crazy. I mean, you take their obsession with low testosterone levels.
They are obsessed.
Ken Paxton is obsessed with low T, and Pete Hegseth obsessed with low T. Lieutenant Governor Patrick, actually, let's take a look at him. He says you're not manly enough to actually.
This guy.
This guy says you're not manly enough to represent the people in Texas. And he's concerned about your low T levels.
Your manliness.
Oh,
yeah.
Is this, is this a parody? Tell us about their obsession with low T.
Yeah, when I first heard this low T thing, I had to look it up. Guys my age aren't really worried about that kind of thing. But I think people are really tired of this kind of professional wrestling in our politics. Yeah. These old guys who are lathered up in their fake tan, throwing these corny nicknames at each other. People are wanting serious leaders who are going to get this economy back on track, who are going to start to lower costs, who are going to start to raise pay. And people are catching on to the fact that these corny nicknames don't lower the cost of groceries, don't lower the cost of prescription drugs, don't lower the price of gas. And so people realize that we're being played by these politicians who want to throw these nicknames at each other, and they're ready for a serious senator who's going to bring both parties together to get this economy back on track.
By the way, Talarico as a nickname, I'm all in. If somebody calls me Talarico, I'm memeing that all the way to November. I love that. But I want to get
Well, I don't know if everyone knows this, but we've got I'm a Talarico T-shirts available on our website, jamestalarico.com. Check it out and get your T-shirt today.
I'll get you one.
I mean, seriously, they are just playing into your hands. I want to show a picture of this guy again, who's obsessed with low testosterone levels, I guess, and says you're not, oh my God, manly enough. I want to turn this a little serious. This guy felt comfortable also judging your faith. This guy and others felt comfortable saying that you're going to hell. Now, I find this absolutely fascinating that somebody could be so ignorant of the Gospels of Jesus Christ that they would make such a proclamation in a political campaign, not even knowing that Jesus said, judge not that ye be not judged. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. The same, by the measure that you use for other people, I will use that measure against you. I mean, the fastest way to hell, if you believe what Jesus Christ says, is to be focused on the speck in your neighbor's eye instead of the plank in your own. And yet again, they continue to attack your faith and your relationship with Jesus Christ, which, again, I not only find offensive, but I also find it self-defeating, because people that actually read the Bible, that read the red letters, understand that is the last thing a Christian is supposed to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. My granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas, in Laredo. And when I was real little, he told me that as Christians, we're supposed to follow the 2 commandments that Jesus gave us, to love God and to love neighbor. That's it. Christianity is a simple religion, he would always tell me. Not an easy religion, because it's not always easy to love our neighbors, but it is a simple religion. And if we can focus on those 2 commandments, if we can love our neighbors, not just our neighbors who look like us, not just our neighbors who pray like us, not just our neighbors who vote like us. If we can love all of our neighbors, including our enemies, that's when we are truly following that barefoot rabbi from 2,000 years ago. It's that commandment to love thy neighbor is what it got me into public service. It's why I became a public school teacher on the west side of San Antonio. It's why I ran for the state house. It's why I've passed those 60 bipartisan bills to lower people's costs. I'm trying to love my neighbor through public policy. I'm trying to make my neighbor's life a little easier, a little better, a little less stressful. Yeah. And it feels like that kind of love has been missing from our politics, from our public service for a long time now. And it really does feel like in Texas, that message from 2,000 years ago is still resonating with people today, particularly today, given the divisive, corrosive politics we've all been suffering under for 10 years now.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into theology here, but there is something really important that needs to be said based on what you just mentioned, what your grandfather, preacher, told you. Jesus is very clear. All the laws, they all collapse into 2 things: love God, love your neighbor. Sure. And this is so important to explain. I will say to my Republican friends who don't understand this, who may not have read the Bible, but also people that want to understand more of like what's going on the hard right, how it's the antithesis of what Jesus preached. So Jesus said to the disciples, love God and love your neighbor. The disciples said, oh, who's my neighbor?
That's right.
After Jesus said, love God, love your neighbor. So what does Jesus say? He goes, let me tell you a story. And he tells the story of the Good Samaritan and tells how a man's beaten up, he's left on the side of the road, and all of his friends, all of his neighbors, all of his own people passed him by, left him in the ditch to die. It was a despised Samaritan. It was a foreigner. Right. Jesus specifically picked a foreigner who was the most despised to save this man in the ditch. And he said, that is your neighbor. So when I see people being gunned down in the streets, when I see people despising the others, whether they are black or they are brown, because they don't fit into their vision of what a white America is like, can you explain how that is the antithesis of everything Jesus taught his disciples, especially when he was telling them how to get to heaven?
Yeah, you're taking us to church, Joe. This parable of the Good Samaritan, I think, has so much to offer us in this moment in our country, this moment in the world, because you're absolutely right. For Jesus's listeners 2,000 years ago, that story of the Good Samaritan would have been shocking. These days we think of a Good Samaritan as someone who just helps people on the side of the road, and that's important. You should help people on the side of the road. But we're forgetting how radical that message was, that he picked a Samaritan, not just an enemy, but a religious enemy. And so he lifted up the heretic. He said the heretic is where salvation comes from. That is such a shocking message. It's still shocking today. I've said it's as if Jesus stood in the middle of DKR Memorial Stadium at the University of Texas and told a story called The Good Aggie. Like, it would be shocking to the folks who were listening. And no, my dad's an Aggie, so I can make that joke. But, I think we have to remember that the other, the outcast, the enemy has something to teach us. And I would say that's true for the Democratic Party, too. Jesus would be telling us that the person who's going to help us is our MAGA uncle. And that would be shocking for Democrats to hear. So we all need to check ourselves, because these media systems, particularly social media, these algorithms, they divide us for the profit of a few people at the very top. They're pitting neighbor against neighbor, telling us that our enemies are the problem. And Jesus is trying to break all of that from 2,000 years ago. His message is as relevant today as it's ever been. And I think if we can learn to love thy neighbor, if we can learn to love our enemies, that is the key to saving this American experiment in self-governance, not just here, but this experiment in democracy all over the world.
So how do you take this message to the voters in Texas, but also to your competitor, Ken Paxton? We understand you have an announcement. Well,
Ken Paxton's billionaire handlers don't let him answer questions in public. He hasn't appeared on a debate stage in more than a decade. He refuses to answer basic questions like, why did you give an Epstein-style sweetheart deal to an admitted child predator, Adam Hoffman? How did you become a multimillionaire on a government salary? Did Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes, your top two billionaire mega donors, buy an acquittal in your impeachment trial? He won't answer, I think, those very relevant questions. He doesn't answer to the public because he's not a public servant. He is a puppet politician. And I want him to prove me wrong. As we just talked about, we have to be focused on forgiveness and redemption and second chances. And so that's why I am challenging Ken Paxton to 3 televised debates. I'll be on that debate stage because I answer to the people of Texas. Ken Paxton answers to his billionaire mega donors. We'll see if they let him show up.
All right. We'll be watching for that. Texas
hasn't debated in 10 years.
And we got to be interesting to see a
amazing.
debate. I think it'd be good for the voters of any state where they're making a choice like this.
They deserve
Texas
it.
State Representative and Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, James Talarico. Thank you very much for coming on.
It's 4th of July with Willie Nelson instead of in Knightsbridge.
That's impressive. I'm a little jelly. I want to see. I want to see Willie Nelson.
I know.
He watches Morning Joe. Willie Nelson.
Hey, Willie, look at that. That's
we love
great.
Willie Nelson.
All right.
Thank you,
He's doing
James.
great.
Thank you so much.
Coming up.
Thank you all.